Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. I've got a lot to talk about going on in the Big Ten. It's me and Zack Guggenheim once again. Got a lot to talk about on this episode. We got Paul Finebaum throwing some shots as he normally does, talking about Big Ten media days. We are now comparing media days. Which conference had the better media days, apparently. So that's a thing. We're also going to talk about the best 10 out of conference games. A little bit of Connor Stallions talk. As you know here, we're not huge on talking Connor Stallions, but we do want to bring you the news, and we do think a little bit of this Central Michigan stuff does have an interesting question that we're going to ask. But before we get started, please do like, subscribe. Subscribe button's free. It helps us out, okay? Like button's free, okay? You don't have to do anything. Just hit that like button, hit that subscribe, helps us out, and it helps gets you more videos that we produce here at the Big Ten Huddle. You can also catch us on Monday through Friday on podcast platform. You can catch us on YouTube Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Should be a great time, and we do appreciate whenever you are here with us. Last thing, 5-star review on any podcast platform, whatever podcast platform you're listening on. Please do give us a 5-star review. It honestly helps, and we really appreciate it. I got my guy Zack Guggenheim here with me. Who Zack, is Connor Stallions going to throw you a tweet after this episode? Are we going to hear you and Connor going at it? Zack, are you mute? You're muted, Zack.
Ironically, I said no because I'm going to mute him, but I was muted.
Oh, you
wow.
were muted. Okay.
Yeah, I'll mute myself if I get into a fight with Connor Stallions. Fire him into the sun. I'm done. I'm tired of him. Get him out of my mentions, out of my timeline. No more. We're going to talk about him, aren't we?
Yeah, we're going to talk about him. So unfortunately for you, he is going to come up in this episode. So, well, okay. Let's see who we got here to listen to us talk about Connor Stallions. Got Max with us. Paul Fraudbaum says more nonsense than my friend's 18-month-old daughter. Yeah, I think she might be able to have better analysis for college football than Paul.
No lies detected.
No lies detected. Zack here with us says, let's go, Zack. Appreciate you being here. Billy, evening, gentlemen. Evening, Billy. Thanks for being here, man. Mm-hmm. Joe says, you can always count on Finebaum to tackle the hard-hitting topics, and you can always count on us hitting him back with the hard-hitting truths that he neglects to mention.
Love it.
How about that?
Love it. Love it.
A friend of the show, Mike Alibaba, says the SEC is like Nebraska in that they're always claiming off-the-field hypothetical victories. You are such a good Minnesota fan, Mike. You are such a good Minnesota fan. Taking a shot at Nebraska and the SEC all in one comment. Great job.
Oof. That hurts.
Love it. All right. Appreciate everybody being here. We got a lot to get to in this episode. All right. We're going to have a lot of fun talking about a few different things in the second part of the episode. So if you're listening on podcast, the episode that'll come out on Thursday morning, we're going to talk about fall camp preview questions. One question for every Big Ten team as we go into fall camp. Some teams have already started. Some teams will start later this week, but we're going to have a good time with it. We're going to have fun talking about it. So without further ado, let's get started with Zack's favorite subject in the world. That's right. Does Central Michigan's situation with the NCAA impact Michigan at all? You see, last night I was mowing the grass and I was getting eaten alive by mosquitoes, Zack. The mosquitoes were killing me last night. And I can't tell you which one is more annoying at this point, the 8 or 9 mosquito bites I have all over my back that I can't reach, or Connor Stallions, because this dude just does not go away. Of course, Connor Stallions was caught on the sidelines of the Central Michigan versus Michigan State football game to open the 2023 season. Connor claims it wasn't him, if you watch the Netflix documentary, and then immediately after that, it cuts to Dave Portnoy, who says it was Connor, and Connor told him so. Well, Tuesday morning, we got news that Central Michigan had been given its NOA, its Notice of Allegations from the NCAA. Central Michigan has since come out in saying that they did not get an NOA because they are fully cooperating. But at the end of the day, this is a Big Ten show, not a MAC show, so that doesn't really matter here. Just wanted to throw that in there because it's news and what's going on. What matters more is this situation with Connor Stallions in Central Michigan. Does it impact Michigan? Obviously, Connor Stallions was getting the signals to help them in a game versus Michigan State later that year. But if this was Stallions doing, and not so much Michigan's, like if Michigan wasn't sending Connor Stallions, which I don't believe we have any indication that they were, does this impact the Wolverines or just Central Michigan and Connor Stallions? Zach, what do you think?
I hate to go this route, but I would think it would have to impact Michigan, because even if Michigan didn't know anything, it's still lack of institutional control. Like, he's going to scout.
Well, but the way that is written in the rules, it's not just like one thing happens that the coach doesn't know about. It's like tons of things have to happen that the coach doesn't know about.
Tons of things happen that they didn't know about, and this is one of them.
Well, we don't know. The NCAA hasn't come out and said that Jim Harbaugh didn't know.
Well, if he did know, that's
there. I think the NCAA is going to come out and say that at least the staff knew. Maybe Jim Harbaugh didn't know, but at least the staff knew, right? Because why would Michigan be offering up a 2-game suspension for Sharon Moore?
But if somebody knew, I'm trying to give the most benefit of the doubt here. If nobody knew, it's a problem. If a lot of people knew, it's a bigger problem. That's like, and it's another thing in the paper trail that I honestly, and I tweeted this out. I don't love talking about this because I know it's going to get a lot of people riled up. So I just say
we rile everybody up. No matter what we say, Zach, we got UCLA fans that hate us.
That's true. We'll talk about that in a minute. But like, honestly, can we just put Connor Stallions in solitary confinement for the rest of his life and be done with this? But to answer your question, like it has to impact Michigan to some degree because it's another thing. Now, will the NCAA actually do something about it? We don't know. But logically, either they didn't know about it and a rogue agent from Michigan was on the sidelines of another team to scout a Michigan opponent, or Michigan people knew about it and he was sent by Michigan to go, and like, or there's somewhere in between. They're all bad for Michigan. It's not a good look anyway, either way.
Let me say this. I lean toward it impacting Michigan because I think the first point you made was correct. What would why am I blinking? Lack of institutional control. Why am I blinking on that?
Yeah.
I've said that way too many times in my life so far. The lack of institutional control, I do think, is probably what gets them connected to this somehow. But at the same time, like, if it comes out and Central Michigan gets punished and there's literally nothing about this in the stuff with Michigan, and it only pertains to Connor Stallions, like, it wouldn't surprise me, because they could technically get away with being like, well, we didn't send him there, we didn't tell him to go there. You know, what do you want us to do? We put him in the hotel and he snuck out and went to the Central Michigan game. Like, what do you want us to do? You know? So I don't know.
Again, it all comes down to, is the NCAA competent?
Well, no, they're not. We know
right.
this.
So I stand by what I said. I'm tired of this. Fire Connor Stallions into the sun. Let's be done with it.
Well, yeah, Connor Stallions just needs to go away. But not if you keep slandering him on social media. It's not going to go away. He is there on social media if you say his name.
Yeah, I love me some Jack Sawyer. He needs to not talk about Michigan anymore. No more Michigan talk.
Well, my only thing with that is, like, what's he supposed to do when he gets the question? Because you saw in the clip, like, he asked him a very direct question about it. You know, like, what's he?
Yeah.
I don't know. He probably did go into it a little bit too much, but like, when you're getting asked direct questions about it,
I would like, if I were there, I'd just say, yeah, it seemed odd. It stinks. Move on. Like, I get it, but it's like anybody who has Stallions on their show, right? It's just inviting all of this attention that this guy does not deserve. And like, I don't know if you saw the Rich Eisen clip where Rich Eisen is like, True Michigan men hate this guy.
Yeah.
We did not need him. And he's right. They didn't need him. Look at that roster. They did not need him to win a national championship. This guy is a stain on college football. I'm tired of him.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think we talked about it when that clip came out. Like, I don't get why Michigan fans love Connor Stallions. You know, like you had a team that was good enough to win a national championship that won it. I mean, they showed it the second half of the season when Connor Stallions wasn't there. Like that was a team that was going to win a national championship that year unless they just got super unlucky, right? Well, you did get super unlucky. You got super unlucky because you had somebody cheating on your staff. You know, you still won the national championship, but people are still talking about it and possibly talking about getting rid of it and punishing and bowl bans and whatever else. Now we'll see what happens. I have no idea, but it's like, why would you want that? Why would you celebrate somebody who you were good enough to do something and they tainted it? You know?
Yeah.
Now I get it. If you want to do it to like, you know, mess with Buckeye fans, okay, sure. Like I guess that's fine, but you know, if it goes anything past that, where it's like, oh, we love Connor Stallions, he won us a national championship, and then 2 seconds later you're like, oh, but he didn't do anything. The team was good enough on their own. It's like, okay,
yeah.
So, all right. Well, hey, Dave is here. Dave, we appreciate you being here. Fisherman says it's 9 p.m. and Michigan still sucks. Fisherman, been a while, man. We appreciate you being here. Trojan Fight says, what's up, guys? Trying to make sure I didn't miss anybody else. Troy V is here. Says UCLA fans are mostly tarps and empty seats. Yeah, well, these ones can type, so these tarps got all right. You ready to get to the next one here, Zach?
Man, we're going from Connor Stallions to Paul Finebaum. I thought you said we were going to have fun tonight. What are we doing?
You're having a ball, man. This is your favorite show. All right.
It's opposite day, apparently.
Yeah. Listen, Paul Finebaum has opened his mouth once again. He's got a lot to say, Zach, okay? Paul Finebaum discussed Big Ten Media Days and what he has called their collective message during his weekly appearance on McElroy and Kublik in the morning on Monday. Paul said 3 things that I want to highlight and discuss. Number 1, this one is a little bit longer. The other ones will be shorter than this, but this one is less than a minute long. Zach, let's listen into the great words of one Paul Finebaum.
Looking back on the 4 days of the Big Ten, I'm going to tell you right now, it was a bust. It was a bust from the beginning, and it was a bust all the way to the end. And it was a bust because it seems to me that Tony Petitti and his minions, whether it was him directly or indirectly, tried to hand deliver a specific message that went over terribly. Petitti started it off. Again, this is someone who has been on milk cartons all summer because we haven't been able to find him. And finally, he comes out and instead of broadening his approach to, which is what Greg Sankey said 2 weeks ago today, that I talked to Tony Petitti 4 or 5 times last week. I talked to Jim Phillips. I talked to Yormark, meaning I'm trying to work within my commissioner base. Petitti was a lone wolf.
Oh, Petitti's just on an island by himself, Zach. Apparently, that's the worst crime in college football ever. If you don't agree with all the other commissioners, you're worst crime ever. What do you think about what Paul Finebaum had to say?
You know, in Charlie Brown, when the principal comes on and it's wah 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 wah, that's what Paul Finebaum sounds like. Like there's nothing of substance. Honestly, there's nothing of substance. He's just mad that Tony Petitti had a different opinion and a logical one, by the way. Here's the thing he fails to mention. Tony Petitti is addressing the absurdity of what Greg Sankey was talking about the week before. He's not allowed to offer a counterpoint. He's not allowed to offer a different point from his competition, his direct competition. Like, let's be real here, Paul. Like, this is a legitimate counterpoint to a point that you all slurped up last week, and now you're just mad. Like, let's be on. Like, it's the same thing with Stuart Mandel from last week. there's no context. They just want to tear down the conference, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen before, and we couldn't play that long of a clip, otherwise we have copyright issues and we played it too long, so we stayed under a minute. But if you listen before that, Paul Finebaum was talking about how much of a success the SEC media days were, and I maybe I'm just completely out of tune with college football, and I don't know any other fan bases, and I just got Big Ten glasses on. Okay, if that's the case, sue me. But by the number of likes and retweets and messages I get, I don't think that's the case, because I get messages from outside the Big Ten and Big Ten fans as well. But we to act like the SEC had a success for whining for 4 days straight, essentially trying to tell everybody, puff out their chests and be like, well, we're the big dogs in town still, but not actually giving anything of substance. You heard multiple Big Ten coaches and Tony Petitti himself lay out the reasons of why this 4-4-2-2-1 is better for the Big Ten. He didn't try to get up there and say it's better for the SEC. He didn't try to get up there and say it's better for the Big 12. It's better. He came out there and said, listen, I'm in charge of the Big Ten. This is what's better for the Big Ten. Right? That's what his job is to do. And if you want to say his messaging wasn't clear and it was a bust, then you weren't listening, Paul. You had no idea what he was actually trying to communicate and what he was actually trying to discuss.
To that point, I think the Big Ten, and I think we've acknowledged, I know I've personally acknowledged, I do not like the 4-4-2-2-1 model, because I don't like what it does to conferences like the ACC and the Big 12. I'm not a fan of it, but
my counterpoint to that, though, is that it helps them.
And I get that. Here's my point, though, and why I understand it is because we don't live in an ideal world in college football. The Big 12 and the ACC are not equals. The SEC recognizes that, and the Big 10 recognizes that, and I think the ACC and the Big 12 recognize that. So here's what I do like about it, which I think is where you're getting to, is the Big Ten is offering a model which makes things more objective, whereas the SEC's model is all subjectivity. It's all about who do you think is best versus who actually earned it. And I get people are saying, well, but what about strength of schedule? What about this? What about that? But we just saw this season why what you think should not matter as much as what has actually happened. Like, we saw it on the field. We saw it with the precious Alabama-Michigan game. We saw it with the precious Georgia-Notre Dame game. Like, it doesn't matter what you think. It matters what is true.
Well,
that's
what actually
the
happens,
counterpoint.
What actually happens on the field? Look, I get that people don't like the 4 automatic qualifiers. We got people in the chat saying they don't like it. I get that.
I don't either. I don't either.
But in the scenario right now, because one conference is too weak to play 9 conference games, that's the best situation, right? We don't have to like what the best situation is, but we do have to acknowledge this is the best situation, because right now the Big Ten is guaranteed 1 more loss for every single team, and the Big Ten is already behind the SEC by 1 loss no matter what, because of strength of schedule and other things. So essentially the SEC is getting a 2-loss lead over, I would say, second-tier Big Ten teams, right? Over Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State. They don't always get that, but sometimes they do, okay? And it's very, very frustrating to try and play a schedule when maybe it's not as strong as somebody else's schedule. I'm not sitting here trying to say the Big Ten has the best schedules in college football. But when you try to play that schedule and then the other teams in college football are guaranteed 1 less loss than you, it's not a fair playing field, right? And so that's why either the Big Ten needs to go down to 8 conference games. I don't know why any Big Ten fan would want that. Why would you want less good games, right? You want everybody wants to complain about Indiana playing 3 cupcakes. You want every team playing 3 cupcakes? Makes no sense. I've heard tons of Big Ten fans, well, let's just go down to 8 conference games. That's stupid. That is a stupid idea, because you're going to lose games. Now, it's better than what we have now because it's fair and it's the same amount, right? But really the best option here is for the SEC to go to 9 conference games, and the Big Ten's flexing their weight. The Big Ten knows we just won the last 2 national championships. If we're ever going to get the SEC to go to this, the time is to do it now.
Yeah. Well, and I think, again, everybody's playing checkers and the Big Ten's playing chess. Because to your point, their objective is not give us 4-4-2-2-1. Their objective is how do we standardize things? And you heard it from multiple coaches. You heard it from Tony Petitti. They talked about standardizing out of conference schedules, everybody going to 9 conference games. They are trying to make it more uniform across the slate, which is the right thing to do. But that's not what was heard because, again, and I know we look at things through a Big Ten lens. We admit that. Paul Finebaum, I don't think admits that at all as he talks about the SEC.
Paul Finebaum has an SEC lens all day, every day. That's the only way he looks at college football.
And he missed the broader message. Or at best, he missed the broader message. At worst, he is deliberately misrepresenting the Big Ten and Tony Petitti and their coaches.
Yeah. Well, he's got some stuff to say about the coaches we'll get to. Steely Matt shared the show, that reposted it on Twitter. Steely Matt, we appreciate you doing that. Thank you so much. That does help out the show. If anybody else out there is listening on Twitter and you would like to repost the show, we would very much appreciate it if you did that. All right, here's Paul Finebaum on Curt Cignetti.
Cignetti, like him, appreciate what he's done. Appreciate what he's done in the past, but he made a complete fool out of himself. Trying to draw a parallel. So did other coaches. I mean, it's like Brett Bielema came up with the game plan about 5 weeks ago and handed it out to his coaching buddies, and none of them delivered it well.
What did Brett Bielema do at Big Ten Media Days? He was asked a directed question about the SEC, and he didn't get into it, and he talked about his friends in the SEC and shared a heartfelt story about Mark Stoops and how they used to share a room together.
Listen, if Brett
on recruiting trips and stuff.
If Brett Bielema is behind the game plan, then he probably won because that's what happened in the Outback Bowl, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Just absolutely wild to bring up Brett Bielema there. Now, Curt Cignetti is the ire of all of SEC Nation right now because he's making good points, right? And before you come out here and say, oh, well, JR is not seeing the holes in Curt Cignetti. No, Curt Cignetti is making good points, but like I said, you can call Curt Cignetti soft because I wish Indiana was scheduling better out of conference games. But if you're going to do that, you have to call the SEC soft too, because guess what? You have Ole Miss scheduling Wake Forest out of conference, right? You have Tennessee scheduling teams like NC State out of conference. Like, you have Missouri not even putting anybody on their schedule that's even worth a note or anything on their conference. Like, they are playing 3 out of conference Group of 5 and FCS teams as well. The difference is they put one of those Group of 5 games in November, so it hides it better. Everybody at the beginning of the season sees the SEC playing conference games in week 3 or 4, and they're like, "Oh wow, okay, they only have so many games." Well, then they have so many other games that it masks it when Alabama plays Mercer on November 8th. But
the fact that they are shaken by a second-year head coach at Indiana is hilarious. Like, and by the way, I heard this on Kings of the North, and I thought it was apt, so I'll reshare it. This is Doug Lesmerises and Bill Landis who said this, but like, Curt Cignetti has worked his way up. He's 64. He's like the grandpa who just doesn't care anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, he doesn't care what people think. So like, okay, maybe he was off his rocker, and like Paul Finebaum, maybe, again, best case scenario, maybe he was off. Maybe he did make a fool out of himself. You know what? Curt doesn't care. Like, he doesn't. He has worked his butt off to get where he is, became a head coach in his 50s. Like, this was not handed to him. Like, he's making Indiana into something. So, like, that's more impressive than what most of the SEC coaches have done. Like, I don't really care what Paul has to say about Curt. I don't necessarily fully disagree. Like, I don't think Curt was like, I don't know if Curt was the right person to say that, but like, also good for him. He's 64. He had a great season last year. He's done everything right up to this point. Like, awesome. If he wants to take a shot at the SEC, go ahead.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Like the fact that Paul's criticizing him, it's like it's actually proving the point more. It's like, yeah,
well, and that's the thing. Curt Cignetti has put himself in a point right now where the SEC has to do whatever they can to try and tear Curt Cignetti down, because Curt Cignetti is the number one opponent against the SEC right now, and he's coaching at Indiana. Indiana is historically, a terrible program in college football. Curt Cignetti just took that team and took them to the playoffs in his very first year, right? If you can take a Big Ten team from there, from one of the worst programs in all of FBS history, to the playoffs, like that's huge for the conference, and that's a huge level up, right? The SEC wants to talk about how Vanderbilt won 6 games, okay? And they act like, oh, that's some big thing. No, your worst team in your conference won 6 games. Congratulations. The worst team historically in our conference just went to the playoffs. And it scares them. So, yeah. All right, one last clip here, and then we'll be done.
Trying to go after the SEC. There are places you can attack, but don't try to attack on the strength of schedule, and don't try to attack on the non-conference games, because
yeah, I mean, that is the holy grail of the SEC. And at the end of the day, Curt Cignetti made a very good point and made a truthful point, and the SEC knows that right now their white whale of conference supremacy is being torn apart. It does not matter. It is not a thing now. And PFF put out these rankings today. Four Big Ten teams in the top 7 in strength of schedule rankings, according to PFF. 3 in the top 5. You have Wisconsin at the top, followed by Arkansas, UCLA, Florida, Rutgers, Kentucky, Northwestern, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, and then Syracuse at 10. Now you have some SEC fans. Well, yeah, we got 6 teams in the top 10. What are you talking about? You know how many teams that the Big Ten has in the top 30, Zach?
I'm going to guess 10.
13.
Ooh.
You know how many the SEC has?
I'm going to say not 13.
11. So PFF, who does not take recruiting rankings into account and just takes into account players and how they played last year coming into the program, taking into account head coaches, taking into account things like development and working off, grades and stuff like that. I get people don't like PFF grades. I get it. But overall, the PFF is taking into account actual data from how players have actually performed on the field, how coaches have actually coached their teams. Not recruiting rankings, not potential, not hype. They're taking actual stuff with how players played. They're implementing it, and the Big Ten has stronger schedules than the SEC does.
That's a very novel concept, to actually take how players actually played.
Yeah.
Can I address a different layer of this that I just think is so ironic?
Sure.
Paul is saying don't go after non-conference schedule. Don't go after strength of schedule. Dude, did you listen to media days in the SEC? Like that's all they talked about.
Yeah.
Was how much harder the schedule was.
Mm-hmm.
And how much more they deserved things. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, they're trying to control a narrative. What do you think the Big Ten was trying to do? They're trying to control the narrative on their side. Like, this is PR, man. Like, you should know.
And did the Big Ten try to come out there and present a packet with data from 15 years ago to try and make the media feel better? Here's the thing. the Big Ten is operating behind the scenes, and Paul Finebaum wants to come after Tony Petitti and everybody else and act like, oh, they're weak because they're not saying anything. No, Tony Petitti talked about it on that Joel Klatt podcast interview, right? Where he said, why would we go to the media? The media doesn't decide this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The media is not the one deciding what the playoffs are. Why would we go out to the media? And he's exactly right. The only reason you have conferences going out to the media and talking about this stuff is because they're trying to get the media on their side. They're trying to get bias on their side, right? Now, do I think the Big Ten should try to get some media bias on their side? Probably, yeah. They should probably do that. But I just listened to a show the other day where a media member who is a known SEC guy went off on Tony Petitti on the show, went off on Tony Petitti because he did not accept an interview with him. In fact, Tony Petitti ghosted him. The guy asked Tony Petitti, sent a message into his office and said, hey, at Big Ten Media Days, will you do an interview with me? And Tony Petitti ghosted him. It's because Tony Petitti doesn't value going to media members, number one, especially not media members, number two, who are known SEC apologists, and trying to do interviews with them. The only person he's done an interview with is Joel Klatt, and you won't find anybody in the big media who is much more of a Big Ten apologist than Joel Klatt. Well, maybe us, but we're not nearly as big as Joel Klatt.
And Joel, like, it's smart, right? It's the old, I've said this quote before, but it's the old Teddy Roosevelt adage of like, speak softly, carry a big stick.
Right.
Like he knows the TV exec game because that's what he is. And these, like Paul Finebaum and a lot of these other guys, they don't like it because you know what you didn't hear from, not just from Tony Petitti, but from a lot of these coaches. They did talk big, but you know
when
what?
They were asked about it.
Yeah, when they're asked about it.
Yeah.
But they also didn't defend themselves. Why? Because they're not threatened. The SEC feels threatened. Like Paul Finebaum, like this is a media hit by Paul Finebaum. You want to know why he's doing it? Because he feels threatened. You know what pays his salary? Like SEC coverage and the SEC being great.
Yeah, in that interview, he also talked about how the SEC and ESPN don't need media days and how it's just something for the local radio and everything that. And it's like, well, yeah, the SEC network doesn't need Big Ten media days. But guess what? They sent everybody to SEC media days. They sent everybody there. And ESPN sent people to Big Ten media days. So if you don't need Big Ten media days, why are you spending the money to send Heather Dinich to Las Vegas for her to go and ask questions? If you don't need it, why not give that time to the other ones? So anyway, we're giving too much time to Paul Finebaum. What are your closing thoughts, Zach?
Womp, 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 womp. That's my best Paul Finebaum impression.
I love it. Great job. Hey, the Alchemist gave us $5 there. Alchemist, thank you very much. We appreciate the contribution there and to the show and everything else. So thank you. Yeah. Number one, thank you for watching. Number two, thank you for going over and beyond and giving us a $5 super chat. It means a lot.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
For sure. All right. Zach, hey, I put together a list of my top 10 Big Ten non-conference games. Let's talk about non-conference games, okay? As we know, the best time for a conference to show its superiority is either in the non-conference or in the postseason, particularly the playoffs. Here are my 10 most important games for the Big Ten to win to show they are the best conference in 2025. I'm going to go through this quickly, okay? Number one is Texas at Ohio State. We're currently on FanDuel. Ohio State is favored over Texas by 2.5. The over-under for this is set at 50.5. This is a premier matchup of the season between the Big Ten and the SEC, and the Buckeyes, in my opinion, have to come out on top in this one. Otherwise, it's going to take until the playoffs. Next up is number 2, Michigan at Oklahoma, where the Sooners are favored by 2.5 over the Wolverines on FanDuel. I think John Mateer is getting way too much hype. I do not think he has nearly the weapons that he needs to have the season people are saying he's going to have, but I'm also concerned about Bryce Underwood, his first road start. As I mentioned in the predictions, I do have Oklahoma winning this game. It's important for Michigan to get the win, but not as important as Ohio State. Both teams are going to be similarly ranked in the preseason top 25, so Michigan does need to come out on top here, but it's not as important as Ohio State, in my opinion. At number 3, I have Illinois at Duke, with Illinois favored by 3.5 on FanDuel. Illinois is getting a ton of hype going into the season, and a win versus Duke, it won't garner them a whole lot of respect, so that's why I didn't put it number 1. Like, this isn't going to be like, oh, Illinois is the best team out there. But losing here would give the SEC plenty of firepower, so that's why I have it up this high. The rest of them go number 4, Oklahoma State at Oregon, number 5, Wisconsin at Alabama, number 6 being USC at Notre Dame. I feel like since this is not against another conference, it's not as important as some of the other ones, but it's still a game that if USC wins, it'll help them on their chances of getting into the playoffs. In the final 4, I have games against the ACC and the Big 12. That would be good for wins for the record, but I don't think if these teams win these games, I don't think they're going to get touted as the Big Ten is the best because of these wins, right? So number 7 is Utah at UCLA. Number 8 is Iowa at Iowa State. You could flip those two, and I wouldn't argue with you at all. And then next is number 9, the neutral site game of Nebraska versus Cincinnati. And finally at number 10 is Minnesota at Cal. Zach, your thoughts?
Yeah, I appreciate even you making the point, like, this is for conference perception, because I think I probably would have thought about it differently, but I think the one that certainly will bear the most weight in terms of the Big Ten SEC conversation is Ohio State, Texas. I don't know how right that is, because I think the teams that play on August 30th are going to be wildly different from the teams that end up down the road and at the end of the season, right? You have so many new starters, so many new players. I think Ohio State lost 14 players to the NFL draft. Texas lost 12. New quarterbacks for both. A lot of new a lot of new offensive players for Texas. I think 8 new starters for them. 8 new starters, I believe, for Ohio State on defense. So I think for perception, unfortunately, it's that game, but it makes sense. I look at it a little differently in terms of what impacts the playoff race the most. And I think 1 and 2 on your list impacts perception, but I think your third game on the list might be the most impactful game, both in the playoff race, but maybe even with perception down the road, is Illinois at Duke. Because I think Illinois doesn't get much from Duke and winning that game, but if they lose, it could blow a hole into getting more than 4 teams into the playoff for the Big Ten. It blows a hole in the Indiana-Illinois game. If Illinois, like, it presents problems for Illinois that I don't think we're expecting them to have. So I think that game has major implications from a playoff perspective that maybe Ohio State, Texas, and Michigan, Oklahoma don't. On the flip side, I think if Wisconsin beats Alabama, I mean, that's just major props for Wisconsin. And, like, all of a sudden it's a major player in the Big Ten again. Even if they end up 7-5, you get the respect of Wisconsin beat Alabama, fair or not. And so I think for some reason your video camera didn't like that point. So I think the other one I might mention that, again, games that will lose you respect might be more important than games that win you respect. And I would put that Cincinnati-Nebraska game there. Again, Nebraska should win that game and should win it handily. If they lose to Cincinnati, forget the Nebraska, we're back. Nebraska might be on their way to a 5-7 season if they lose to Cincinnati. Like, it's going to be really bad if they can't beat Cincinnati in a neutral site game. So, but those are my thoughts. I think it really depends on what you view as most important. If you're talking about overall perception, particularly against the SEC, I think you're spot on. I think if you're thinking more in the realm of what's going to blow a hole in either playoff chances or give fodder for the middle of the league to look weaker than people want it to look, I would look at 3, 5, and 9 on your list. That's Illinois at Duke, Wisconsin at Alabama, Cincinnati, Nebraska. Oh, you're muted, JR.
Sorry. Don't done that when my video stopped for some reason. Yeah, no, I think you make a good point. I think if you're looking at it that way, I think you have to include USC at Notre Dame in there too. I would actually put that above Wisconsin, Alabama, personally. It's going to be nearly impossible for Wisconsin to make the playoffs with the schedule they have. It's nothing against Wisconsin. It's just the schedule that they have. So, but USC does have a real shot at making the playoffs this year. Obviously, there are some people that are picking them to go 9-3, 10-2, stuff like that. So they have a real chance of getting to the playoffs this year. I don't know. Maybe Nebraska. Yeah, I mean, that's the hard part is like, I also look at this from if you get the win, how much notoriety do you get for it?
Yeah.
Right? It's not just about the playoff to me. While I do think of that some, and I think you make a good point to think of that, I also look at this and say Minnesota is expected to beat Cal. If Minnesota beats Cal, like that's going to be great for the record, but nobody in the SEC is going to be like, oh, we can't argue Minnesota because they beat Cal. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's like Oregon, Oklahoma State. Like if Oklahoma State somehow miraculously upsets Oregon, it's a huge blow. But like if Oregon's supposed to beat Oklahoma State by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, they should. I mean, what did they play them 2 or 3 years ago and they did? I mean, yeah. So you're right. It just kind of depends on the way you look at it. I think you look at it with the playoff stuff, it definitely looks different. But from my vantage point, if you look at it just for conference supremacy, what gives you the most bragging rights, what impacts you the least if they lose, stuff like that. I think you have to have Texas, Ohio State at the top, and you have to have Michigan, Oklahoma, and so on and so forth there. So, what'd you think about my Iowa State placement there?
I think it's good because I think for Iowa both to be in the playoff conversation and also for Iowa to be viewed as a good win, I think they need to beat Iowa State. But losing to Iowa State also wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for them, right? Because Iowa State's good. Like, Iowa State's going to be a good team. They're going to compete for the Big 12 again this year. Like, it's not – they're both going to be around the same level, like lower half of the top 25 or maybe like ranked in that 26 to 40 range, somewhere in that. So, like, they're even, but it's really for bragging rights and – perception, right? Like how much different is Iowa's perception if they win that game last year and 9-3 instead of 8-4?
Yeah, I mean that was the part last year, right? Was Iowa lost that game. It wasn't really a huge sticking point with the conference supremacy race or anything like that. So that's why I had it lower because I have Oregon, Oklahoma State up there. Because if Oregon loses to Oklahoma State, that's a much bigger factor because of like you mentioned it. Puts them in a much more difficult position to try to make the playoffs, number one. And number two, it gives the Big 12 bragging rights to say, well, this team that is supposed to finish bottom of the conference or mid just beat a team that was a contender in the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on that before we move on?
No, it's a good graphic. For people who can't see on podcasts, as an anti-Michigan guy, that picture of Sherrone Moore is pretty slick, actually. Like, he looks like he's about to go to war, and I'm like, I don't want any of that.
Sherrone Moore's got some really good pictures. I have some really good pictures of him in my thing. Like, he's the dude poses well for pictures. I don't know if he's trying to or not, but he does a good job. Yeah.
It's a great picture. Very photogenic as he's yelling on the field. It's great.
Yeah. Let's see. We got Larry. Larry says, where's Maryland versus Northern Illinois? Well, Larry, I put in there only Power 4 opponents. That would be number one if we did not include only Power 4 opponents.
I'm going to refrain from saying anything.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, because I thought if you put in the Power 4, like if you put in the non-Power 4 opponents, you could get into a whole thing of like, well, Iowa State better not lose to Grambling State. Right?
Yeah. Well, there are a couple, and like I think Larry makes a good point. Like there are a couple group of 5 games that really do matter, right? Like Northwest, like
if I didn't put that on there,
Maryland.
Washington State, Oregon State, Northern Illinois with what they did to Notre Dame last year, those would all be in consideration. Yeah.
Northwestern Tulane.
Yeah, that one too.
That's going to be a really good game.
Yeah. So, Larry said I wasn't trying to make a good point. I was just joking. That's just how smart you are, Larry.
Yeah. In your humor, Larry, you made a good point.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's end the portion of the episode there, Zach. If you're listening on podcast, this is where we're going to say adios. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. If you're listening on YouTube, stick around. We are going to get into the second segment of the episode where we would give our fall preview question for every single Big Ten team. What do we want to see? What's the question, the storyline, whatever it might be that our questions pertain to that we want to see out of the Big Ten teams in the fall preview. Zach, before we get to that, do you have anything else?
I don't. I'm happy to be done talking about guys named Connor and Paul.
For now. Just wait.
Until next
Sunday,
week.
there's bound to be something that happens.
No. I'm praying against that.
I just want to know how many reporters have their bell notification turned on for Connor Stallions every time he tweets, because it feels like the articles get written literally every single time he tweets.
Just solitary confinement. That's my one request. Solitary. No more interaction. Just be done with it.
All right. Sounds good. All right, everybody. Podcast listeners, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. YouTube guys and gals, stick around. We are going to get to the next segment of the YouTube show right now. Hey, welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. Here with me, Zack Guggenheim. We are going to be talking some fall camp previews. Now, I know. There are some fall camps for teams that have already started. They started on Monday, Tuesday. Some of them start a little bit later on Wednesday. I get it. But we are these camps are like a month long, okay? So give us a break. We're going to ask some questions about these teams that we want to know as we lead up to the season. We are less than 30 days away from Big Ten football. We're stoked. We're excited. If you're stoked and excited, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on podcast. Hey, and if you don't like the show on podcast, please do not give us a 1-star rating. All right. My email is jrsrankings@gmail.com. JR's rankings. Just send me a super nasty email instead. Okay. I promise I'll see that better than your super nasty review that will never change and be a 1-star review forever. So, give us a 5-star review if you like the show. If you don't, use my email and throw me a nasty email. I'm sure that'll make you feel better. Right? We are on podcast Monday through Friday every day with episodes on YouTube Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night. Come join us over there. Zach, I am with tonight this morning if you're listening now, and we're gonna get some fall camp preview stuff. Zach, how excited are you for Big Ten football to be back in 30 days?
I'm really excited, and I think our listeners are excited too. I don't know if you saw, we crossed 3,000 subscribers on YouTube.
We did. That's awesome. Thank you so much, subscribers.
Yeah, we are very, very, very thankful for you guys. Thankful that you guys want to hear our thoughts on Big Ten football. And to your broader point, how excited am I? I'm very excited. August 30th, cannot get here quick enough. I already know what I'm going to be making food-wise for that game. I've perfected my smoked wing recipe, and it's going to be filled. My pellet grill is going to be filled with buffalo wings before that game.
That's going to be delicious.
Yes.
It's going to be delicious.
Yes. And if some of you end up on my doorstep, I would understand, but I'll also probably call the cops. So please don't do that.
Well, just don't give out your address on the internet. I learned that very early on the internet. Not through experience, just through people telling me.
Yeah, we should do, I don't know how we would do this, but it actually would be fun, to do some sort of meetup with folks in the chat and I don't know, a tailgate at some point. Find I was gonna say maybe at a Big Ten championship game, but is it at Indy again this year?
I believe it's at Indy this year.
Okay,
yeah.
maybe Big Ten championship game. We should try to do a Big Ten huddle meetup.
It had to be an event like that because we're probably not going to get many Ohio State fans to come to a Indiana tailgate, or Illinois fans come to a Penn State tailgate or something like that. Unless they're playing, then I guess they would. But
yeah, Yeah.
Yeah. Max says, idea for an episode with Jeff, longest streaks in the Big Ten, current and historical, longest winning/losing streak from one team against another, longest no shutout streak, no turnovers, etc. That's a really good idea, Max. I will take a picture of your comment and send it to Jeff and see if he wants to do that. So we're getting some congrats from people for our 3,000 subscribers. Thank you, Max. Thank you, Billy. Working hard to get there, and we're hoping to hit 5,000 this next season. Last season was awesome for us. It was really good, and we're hoping to provide really good content again for people. Looks like Troy's got some good content for himself that he's smoking as well.
We want to see pictures of you smoking that brisket, and then maybe even eating that brisket.
There you go. All right. Zach, let's get to our fall camp questions. All right. So I will start first. I'm not going to go too long with these. I'll just kind of give my question. And then if you have any response or anything, feel free. Oh, hold on. Before we do this, I think Dave just sent a super chat. It says, what happened to my membership star? Also, only Paul I care about is the Paul Bunyan's axe. I don't know what happened to your star there, Dave. There were some that just went away during the middle of the episode. I thought it was just on my end. I have no idea. I'll check after the episode and see, or maybe when Zach's talking for a long time, I'll check and see. But
is that a challenge? Are you saying that I need a monologue for a bit?
No.
Oh, you don't want that? Okay.
But I will say Paul Bunyan, way better than Paul Finebaum, 10 times better.
The axe is the best trophy, and I will hear no argument otherwise. It is the best trophy in all of college football. It's a freaking axe. It's awesome.
It is the coolest trophy. I mean, it's one of the best rivalries in all of college football. It should be top 5. But people apparently don't like that rivalries play for a long time. So whatever. All right, let's get into it. Zach, my question for Indiana is, will Fernando Mendoza's mobility add a dimension to this Indiana offense? Are we going to hear about mobility from Fernando Mendoza? As a lot of people learned last year after the season was over, Curtis Rourke played pretty much, if not the entire year, with a torn ACL, and it really limited his mobility in a number of games. I'm interested to see this Mike Shanahan offense. Does it have a mobility option for quarterbacks that Curtis Rourke just wasn't able to do? Now, he wasn't the most mobile guy in the world before going to Indiana, so it's not like this was, some big thing they were missing out on or whatever, but he is somebody that, could have maybe evaded more in the pocket, done some more side steps on blitzes and rushes and stuff if he had a bit more mobility. But Fernando Mendoza, he's going to have a better offensive line this year than he had at Cal. Indiana's bolstered that up and made that one of the better units, if not probably one of the top 2 or 3 units on the team, which is really good for them. However, I do think that Fernando Mendoza, his mobility, his speed, how big he is as a quarterback could be utilized, and I'm interested to see if Mike Shanahan does that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because we already think that offensively Indiana has really improved, obviously, last year. But if they add another element, if that offensive line continues to grow and build, you're talking about a multi-dimensional offense that is going to be problematic for everybody in the Big Ten. And that, I don't mean just mid-tier teams in the Big Ten. I'm talking about Illinois, Oregon, Penn State. That'll be really, really fascinating. I'm really excited to see Fernando Mendoza play. I think as good as Curtis Rourke was, and I loved Curtis Rourke. I thought he was such an excellent player for the Hoosiers last year, but I think there's a lot of excitement. I know we're not the only ones. The guys at the Out of the Blue podcast, Andy and Jared, they were very high on Mendoza as well. They're very excited for Indiana as well. So it's not just us as Ohio State guys, but Michigan guys excited about Indiana and Fernando Mendoza.
Everybody should be excited about Indiana. The only people that shouldn't be excited about them are the teams that play them and the teams that are in the SEC.
I would say, and Paul Finebaum, not Bunyan.
Paul doesn't get excited about anything.
Well, he gets excited about Bama.
Yeah.
Until Bama people call him.
Yeah. I was going to say, the better they do, the more they call. I don't know if he wants that. So
Yeah. One of my favorite, I think it was the 2014 game, Ohio State, Alabama. And like he was watching that with two other SEC honks. And they're like, oh, Alabama's going to come back anytime now. Oh, Zeke Elliott just ran 85 yards. Well, I guess they're bad now. It's like, no, anyway, that's besides the point. I believe I have Rutgers. That's the next team on the docket?
Real fast, Doreen shared the stream, and we appreciate you doing that, Doreen. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Doreen.
I've learned that not every single repost on Twitter, for whatever reason, shows up on StreamYard. I'm not sure why that is. I don't know if I have to be following you or something like that. But Doreen and Steely consistently do this, and we really appreciate you guys for doing that. So just want to say thank you. All right, go ahead with Rutgers, Zach.
Yeah, I think for Rutgers, my question really is, are the offensive and defensive lines exceeding expectations? I'm excited about Kaliak-Manis and his progression. I'm excited about these I think, underrated receiving group. I think their back seven has some experience on defense. So, I think there's some good pieces there. But the big question with Rutgers, as it has been, I think, since they've come into the conference, is these lines. I think we were excited about them a year ago because we were like, we think these lines can maybe stand up. But now, I believe 2 new starters on the offensive line. I think that they're completely rebooting the defensive line, some with starting production from transfers, guys like Blue Eli and other guys. But I want to know how these guys are doing in fall camp, because I think if their line play can improve, the games against teams like Iowa, Minnesota, Maryland, those games become much more coin flip-ish if their line play improves. If it doesn't, I'm already marking Iowa and Illinois and all those Iowa, Minnesota, Illinois, Washington, I'm marking them all as losses. But if their line play can get better, then I think they have a fighting shot to at least get bowl eligible. So I think that's the key for them, is their line play.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge for Rutgers this year. They had a really good offensive line to begin the year. It was actually excellent the way it was playing, but then they had some injuries and they had to move some things around. And I mean, it wasn't bad last year, but definitely felt it from the injuries and the guys having to move around. So you got to avoid that this year.
Injuries killed them last year. Yeah. It was so sad.
Well, everywhere, all over the field, but offensive line was one in particular. Yeah. So, all right. My Illinois question, Zach. Can D-line coach Terrence Jamison have he's done a great job with Johnny Newton, Keith Randolph, Tara Edwards, Denzel Daxon, Dennis Briggs Jr., and more. I mean, he's done a really good job with, one, getting guys drafted highly, and then also getting guys just to the NFL who contribute well. I want to know, who will he develop into the guy this year? Who's going to be that guy for the defensive line? We kind of gave the defensive line a little bit of a hard time last year because it wasn't necessarily a complete unit, but they still did have Tara Edwards, who got drafted this past NFL draft. Terrence Jamison is a very good defensive line coach. He's a co-defensive coordinator for Illinois. He's going to get these guys right. He's going to get them to be good defensive linemen for this team. It's just, my thing is, who's going to be that guy, that run stuffer, that pass rusher, whatever it is. Obviously, Gabe Diakis will be the pass rusher, but he's not on the defensive line. He's the linebacker. So, but when you look at the run stopping and stuff like that, where is that going to come from? I think Curt Neal has a very good opportunity to be there. James Thompson Jr. is somebody everybody's very excited about as well. But right now, Illinois has the 8th best odds to win the Big Ten on FanDuel at plus 4,200. The odds, FanDuel, it's not just FanDuel, a lot of different places are not too fond of Illinois right now, and I can't help but think it's because of the defensive line. They had a couple guys, Curt Neal and James Thompson, come in from Wisconsin, but Wisconsin also didn't have the best defensive line last year. It's going to be on Terrence Jamison to really develop these guys, get these guys ready for the season if they want to finish higher than 8th in the Big Ten, which I think they will, but stranger things have happened, Zach.
Yep. I think it's good because I think the other two levels of the defense are really, they've got studs there. It's just defensive line. Do you have run stuffers? Do you have guys that can get after the quarterback? Obviously, Gabe Yakas is going to be one of those guys, but do you have someone else on the defensive line that can really help you? And maybe it's eating double teams, or maybe it's another pass rusher. But either way, do you have someone that can really be a force up front for you? So good work.
Thank you. All right. You have Michigan State, Zach.
Sparty. My question is, can the transfers in the Spartans' new look secondary help the unit be more reliable this season? Right? They lose Brantley. The secondary, I think, over the past several years has been a weakness for the Spartans. I do think they're going to have an underrated defense this year. Joe Rossi helping to bolster that unit, but just a lot of turnover in that secondary. Eaton comes from Oklahoma, Martinez from UCF. Both of them are projected to be starters. You have Bell from UConn and Cromwell from Texas Tech, who are maybe more slated to be reserves or depth pieces, which is great. They have a lot of depth now, but can that translate into being solidified to be a helpful unit, especially against some very good wide receiving cores in the Big Ten?
Yeah, Michigan State did a really good job this offseason. We didn't really talk about it enough, but they did a really good job this offseason of kind of taking the Indiana approach a little bit to their transfers and going out and getting guys with actual production, not just guys with potential. And I think what we've learned, if anything, in the transfer portal, especially by Indiana last year, was you go out and you get guys who have performed at the group of five, the FCS level, and bring them in, and you're a lot better set up than going out and getting those guys that haven't done anything at Ohio State, Georgia, whatever it is. Now, when I say haven't done anything, I mean haven't done anything. There are guys at Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, whatever, like all these top tier teams. There are players on there that have gotten some time but not starter time yet, and they go out to other places and do very well. It's the guys who were starters. It's the guys who were, all Sun Belt team players or all Americans at the FCS who it's no guarantee, but it's much better than going out and getting a freshman from, Texas who didn't see the field at all his first year. I mean, we all saw how that worked out with, what was the name of the corner that went to Illinois last year? We were super excited for him, but he never really amounted to much. The guy that did amount to much was Zachary Franklin, who had actual production from UTSA. Now, he got hurt at Ole Miss, but he came in with actual production and performed well. Was the second option for Illinois, so got to do that.
Yep.
Good question. All right. My question for Washington, Zach. Washington, who will be the leader? If I'm on a bit of a defensive line kick here, okay? Who will be the leader of the defensive line for Washington? Washington had some injuries last year on the defensive line. Zach Durfee, Javon Parker, a number of guys that played well and did some things. Zach Durfee, I believe he got injured like week 3, 4, 5, something like that, and he was the sack leader for the year for Washington. He only played about a third of the season, and he was pretty much the sack leader. I'll have to double check that to make sure, but he was the sack leader, or if he wasn't the sack leader, he was right up there with the sack leaders for the team. You got to have more production from your defensive line for Washington. Now they have, like I said, they have guys who performed well at the beginning of the year. They just got injured. So these guys are coming back, right? But who's going to be the leader? Who's going to be the leader of this defensive line? Who are the transfers that are coming in? Can one of those guys step up? We're looking at Logan Sagapolo, Samante Pepe, Armand Parker, Javon Parker I mentioned as well. Like, these are some of the guys that could step up and be key pieces for this defensive line for Washington. And even though they might not have a star, they can still have a leader and have good production. Yeah,
good question. I think for me, it would have been between the defensive and offensive line, similar to Rutgers. And I think you're right, though. They need somebody to step up and be solid, if not spectacular, for them on that defensive line.
Yep. All right, Zach, the UCLA fans have not been too fond of us since our Big Ten predictions episode.
Yes.
Give me their question.
And I can understand. Why they feel the way they do. We had them both. I think we both had them 3-9, 1-8 in conference.
Yeah.
Which is not a kind prediction. So I can understand why people are upset, and especially because I do think they've upgraded talent-wise. So why would we both think that they're going to go 3-9, 1-8 in conference? And I think it's this question. how much of Tino Sinceri's offense has Nico grasped, and will he grasp starting August 30th? Because that's my biggest concern. I've been saying it for months now, ever since he transferred to UCLA. How much do you expect him to grasp of that playbook? And then you've got to hope that he can out-duel a lot of offenses, because that defense did not upgrade a ton over the offseason. So that's my big question, is how much of Tino Sinceri's offense has Nico grasped? If he's grasped a lot of it and he's ready to go, I'll eat my words, because I think they'll be much better than 3-9. But if he's still learning the system, and you get, like, you're playing Utah, you lose that game, like it's just a rough way to start, and I could see it really spiral for them. So I think that's the key question for me.
Yeah, UCLA right now for on FanDuel 4+ wins, which is 4 wins or more. They have an odds of -410, which that's a good favorite to do that. So FanDuel disagrees with both of us. So UCLA fans, you definitely have a point that 3 wins is probably too small. Personally, I challenge you to go through the schedule, look at the away games and everything else, and tell me where you are super confident you have 4 wins at. I'm not trying to disparage UCLA and say UCLA is a bad program or anything, but you do enter the year with 2 tough out-of-conference games, right? Utah and then UNLV with Dan Mullen. Now, UNLV would not normally be a tough out-of-conference game, but with Dan Mullen there, I think it makes it tougher than it looks, and it probably would have been one of the ones close to, if not on my top 10 of out-of-conference games if we were including non-Power 4 teams. But you look at that, and then you look at the road games that they have to face. You look at the home games and who they're getting at home. UCLA can get to 4, 5, 6 wins. Obviously, I mean, they're not a bad program. It's just the way the schedule works out with some of the road stuff and everything. It's not super favorable, and especially if you don't get momentum to start, that's hard too.
Yep.
So, but good question about Nico. All right. My next one is Maryland. Zach, my question is very simple for Maryland. Which quarterback gets bit by the snake? Okay. No, it's not really that. My question is, who's the starting quarterback for Maryland? Maryland is so driven by their quarterback. Mike Locksley does such a good job of developing these guys. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be the guy with a little bit more experience in Justin Martin? Is it going to be one of the young guys in Malik Washington or Christian? What's his last name? Christian. I almost said Christian Martin. I don't know if that's right. But they have a true freshman named Christian. Anyway, or redshirt freshman.
I'll do some research here. Hold on.
He's a freshman. Sorry. But anyway, I just want to know, who is the starting quarterback going to be? It seems like it's a battle between Malik Washington and Justin Martin to me, hence the reason why I'm not remembering everything about Christian. Sorry. But I do want to know which one of those 2 guys is going to be it.
It is Christian Martin.
Oh, okay. See, I was right. I shouldn't have doubted myself.
Yeah.
True freshman or redshirt freshman? Does it say?
Redshirt freshman.
Okay. Yeah. I got that wrong. Well, hey, I got one out of 2 right. That's not bad.
Yeah.
So.
And he is technically a freshman. So.
Larry says they all got bit by the snake.
Oh
no.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, Mike Locksley.
Mm-hmm.
The gift that keeps on giving.
Fisherman says Caden Robinson got denied eligibility by the NCAA too. Yeah, that's the UCLA wide receiver that came in from App State. That was hard for them. So they do have some experienced receivers, but just not guys with a ton of projection. Quasi Gilmore. I apologize. Yeah, he had a good season last year. But yeah, we'll see how it goes for the UCLA wide receivers.
Yeah, the pieces are there for UCLA. Like, nobody is saying that they're not there to like have a better season. It's just, I don't think people understand how hard it is to come in May and like figure out a whole playbook and get continuity with receivers and learn a system.
And they don't have any other option. The guy from App State transferred out. So
yeah,
I don't even want to say his name. That's how mad I am for him. Guy transferred. Okay, I don't even remember his name. Sorry, go ahead.
That's all right. So you had Maryland. I've got Michigan.
Yep.
And my question is not about the quarterback, but it is about who is protecting the quarterback. It's all about offensive line. They did a good job of run blocking a year ago, but a lot of poor quarterback play. They were not great quarterback prospects back there, right? All three of them were not great. But you know what made it a lot worse was the pass blocking or lack thereof.
Pass protection. Yep.
And so I think the big key that I have a big question of is, does this offensive line take a leap in fall camp to be not a weakness and not even a net neutral, but a strength of the team, particularly in pass blocking? Can Greg Crippen and Afobe and El Haddadi and Sprague and Link, can those guys be a much better offensive line pass blocking and protecting their young quarterback?
Well, they got a couple freshmen who could start. I mean, right now they're talking about Andrew Babalola, one of the true freshmen, possibly starting at left tackle for him this season. Zach, could you imagine having a left tackle true freshman and a true freshman quarterback starting for? Now they were both 5 stars. All right, they got the talent. But from what we've been told about Andrew Babalola, he is somebody that is going to need a little bit more developing. He's not one of those guys that's coming in right away and has everything. And it's not size or anything like that. It's just kind of technique, but he's a very smart kid and he could pick up on it fast, and that could be how he started so quickly.
Yeah. Well, and if he's better than Evan Link, that
and Evan Link was not good in pass protection early in the year last year. Now he got better as things went on, but I don't know if you want to throw him out there at your left tackle, but that might be what they have to do. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's my question and does Babalola does he show strides throughout fall camp where you have confidence at putting him at that left tackle spot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good question. All right. My question is for Ohio State, and my question is, who rounds out the secondary, right? I rank the secondary the number 1 secondary in all of Big Ten football. However, there are 2 position battles going on in the secondary right now. You have both of them are safeties. The first one is who's going to be the free safety, and either Malik Hartford or Jalen McClain. I think Malik Hartford, I believe he's the older player. However, he's more of kind of a hard-hitting, come down the field, strong safety type. But if they can develop him a little bit more into more of a free safety type, maybe. But I think it's probably going to be Jalen McClain. But we'll see. I mean, I just don't think you want to take Caleb Downs out of his role that he's had the past few times. But Matt Patricia coming in, brand new defensive coordinator. We'll see what happens. And then the other one is the slot kind of nickel corner, who is really more of a safety in at least the offense they ran or the defense they ran last year. Is it going to be Lorenzo Styles or Devin Sanchez? Lorenzo Styles, he was a former wide receiver at Notre Dame. He was a really good corner in high school. He switched to wide receiver at Notre Dame, switched back to corner, has been playing more nickel / safety now, and then you have the true freshman phenom and Devin Sanchez kind of battling that spot for him. So who's going to get that spot? Who's going to get the free safety spot? Very interested in those 2 battles, especially with this Ohio State secondary that I think is going to be really, really good this season.
I'm really intrigued if Sanchez can be is Sanchez a unicorn like Jeremiah Smith is? And that's some of the hype we've been hearing. I'm not saying it's true, but
yeah, I think he's probably going to be more like Jermaine Matthews his freshman year.
Yeah.
Where Jermaine Matthews, a freshman All-American, he didn't start, but he got in there and he got time, and he played well when he was in. He just had older guys that were in front of him, and that's kind of what Devin Sanchez has this year.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So, all right, Zach, you have Iowa. You just got all the teams that love you.
Yeah, all of them. How does the back 7 adjust to being really gutted this past year, right? I think we're excited about the offensive and defensive lines for Iowa. I think that's why, as much crap as I've given Iowa, I know they're not going to fall off a cliff. I think we know that they're not we're not talking about bowl list. Their offensive and defensive lines are going to be some of the best in the Big Ten. the real question is the back seven. How do they perform? How do they develop? Because you only have a couple guys that are back as starters. Nwampa's back. Deshaun Lee is back. Both those guys have been starters. Everybody else is, they have experience, but not starting experience. And so I think my question is, how do they develop, and do they rise to the challenge? Do they, how do I put this? Can they return to form from a year ago is my question. Can this new wave of defenders really return to form, be sound tacklers, be fundamentally sound, not have as many busts? I think that's my big question for this back seven.
Starts with Xavier Nwankpa, if you ask me. He's got to play like the 5-star that he is, be the leader of that secondary. And, if you're Iowa, if there's a question in your defense, you probably want it to be your secondary, because Phil Parker's really, really good with secondaries. Sounds like there was some culture issues, stuff like that last season, from what some people are saying. So hopefully they get that figured out, and Iowa has a 8-4, 9-3, 10-2 type of season. I would love to see that for the Hawkeyes. So
I would
Zach
too,
because he wants them to collapse.
No, Philip is wrong. He's wrong about this. I don't want Iowa to collapse. I don't.
Okay.
I want Kirk Ferentz to do better.
Okay.
That's just do better.
I believe you, Zach. I believe you.
Oh my goodness! Right. What the heck?
Just messing with you. All right, mine is Minnesota. Mine is Minnesota. How will the offensive line be organized this season? A lot of rumors about Ashton Beers switching to center with Greg Johnson. Greg Johnson played guard his freshman year and excelled at that, but he didn't do so well at center last year. Heard about that from our guy Mike Alibaba in the offensive line stuff, and so I am interested to see how that whole situation plays out. Does Greg Johnson get back to the way he was when he played guard his freshman year? And does Beers' athleticism allow him to play the center role much better than Johnson was able to last year? In addition to that, there's still a left tackle battle going on right now in Khalid Toffee and Nathan Roy. Who's going to be the guy there? Interested to see how this Minnesota offensive line plays out, especially since I am banking on this Minnesota offensive line being good for Minnesota to have a good season. I don't think it's not me doubting Anthony Cali or not. Oh, geez. Minnesota fans are going to hate me. It's not me doubting Drake Lindsay or anything like that. It's just I think this Minnesota team needs to get back to the run game this season that PJ Fleck has always put a big emphasis on. I think they can do it, but you have to have a cohesive together offensive line to make that happen, which will make the guard, left tackle, and center position very important.
Yeah, they have to build the passing game through the running game. Yeah, they can't be like what Max Brosmer was a year ago. Not with Drake Lindsay's lack of experience. So I think it's good. That's good.
Hey, Dave brought up a good question about Iowa here. This is what I was going to ask. I didn't bring it up to you, but how good is that South Dakota State kid at quarterback? That would be my question. He's talking about for Iowa, Mark Gronowski. Mark Gronowski hasn't practiced yet. I mean, that's one thing that Kirk Ferentz said is he said he doesn't know, kind of where he's at, or I shouldn't say he doesn't know where he's at yet. He's not seen him practice in actual game situations in real practice. He's been throwing and stuff like that, so that's good. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, does the hype continue for Mark Gronowski?
Listen, did Kirk Ferentz ever see Cade McNamara practice? Because if he did, he never would have played at Iowa. So
I still wish they played Brendan Sullivan last year.
Me too.
He was so much better at the end of the year if they just let him play.
My criticism of Kirk Ferentz. I thought about asking that question, but I was such a defensive laden team. Like I just feel like I want to know how
they're going to score 50 plus every game. Reese Vanderzee going for 90-yard touchdowns. Mark Gronowski, you see what happened with that Navy quarterback last year when he ran 90 yards up the middle.
Okay, if Iowa scores 50 plus in 2 or more games, I will buy an Iowa shirt.
Awesome.
From home field.
Okay, I'm holding you to that. Okay.
Please do, because it's not going to happen. Oh yeah, I'll use the code.
Just make sure you use the code, okay?
Yeah. Okay. Purdue. Oh gosh, what should I not ask?
Good luck.
Yeah, I
How many
honestly,
specimen do you have?
I actually thought about. The question I have kind of is like that. It's twofold. What's the vibe like in camp? Like, are they excited to be there? Like, are they excited for Barry Odom? Like, do they feel like they're building towards something? I think that's actually really important because if they're there and they're like, oh, it's same old, except we don't have Max Clare and Dylan Thieneman.
They don't have anybody from last year. It's Devin
Right.
Mockabee, and that's it.
Right.
The man's on an island.
But I think this is where maybe the second part of my question is who on the roster can give their team and their fans hope that they're going to be competitive this year. Like Maccabee's great, but you need like who is going to be your stalwart leader and playmaker that's going to give you excitement week in and week out. We thought that was going to be Dylan Thieneman and Max Clare last year, and they were exciting at times. You know, when Dylan Thieneman wasn't chasing another Notre Dame player that just scored again.
Thieneman was just used incorrectly, and Clare, I mean, he just never really had opportunities to make plays. I mean,
yeah. So I think is there a player that they can really get behind to build momentum?
Yeah. Good question. We'll see what Purdue does. All right, Wisconsin. My question for Wisconsin, and my question for them is which of these Wisconsin running backs is going to step up this season and be the guy? They're going to get back to this to the style, right, of running it, pounding it more. Jeff Grimes is going to bring that in. But which one of these guys is going to be it? Is it going to be Cade Yakimelli? He's broke off some big runs, but is he an every down back kind of guy? Can he be the starting running back? Darian Dupree is a young guy who he has an opportunity to possibly do some things. And then Dylan Jones, the redshirt freshman, is he going to come in and really light things up as the redshirt freshman and surprise people? I think all three of these guys have a good chance to make some noise this season. And I don't know if you're going to figure it out in fall camp. I think you might have to figure it out in your first couple games, but which one of these guys is going to be the guy, or is it just going to be a share and it could be one guy every other game? You know, I mean, if this offensive line for Wisconsin can be good, and I think they will be good. They're missing a left tackle. Unfortunately, he got injured in the spring camp, but if they can be a good offensive line, we could see a really good running game for Wisconsin this year. They just need to have a back to do it, and they got three good options. It's just one of them has to rise up and be that main guy.
Yeah. I love that question. I love that question so much because it's really what, like it's what they need is they need to go back. They need to go back to who they are.
Should they have got a big name guy in the transfer portal?
I mean, they could have, but they could have
big name guys there were in the transfer portal.
Yeah. You know, there's another question you could have asked that I think would have been maybe not as tactful, but maybe hilarious.
Okay.
How much better is your defense now that Alex Grinch is at UCF?
Well, good question. Let's hope really good.
Oh man. Oh,
poor
the
Alex
Grinch. The Grinch that keeps on giving. USC is, speaking of Grinch, is Maeva becoming a more consistent player play to play in camp, right? Like, I think he has all the tools. I think he can be a really, really good player for the Trojans, but can he avoid the turnover? Can he be consistent from down to down?
Yeah, I think it's a good assessment there. And, you know, does he follow in the footsteps of other USC quarterbacks and kind of turn into that guy who can kind of make plays on the move and do some of that interesting stuff, but also play under control enough to not be a detriment by turning the ball over and stuff? Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. And USC's going to need it this year.
Yep.
So, all right. Penn State. All right, Zach, my question, a little interesting here, okay? Nolan Rusi came in last year, started when the former right tackle, Anthony Donku, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, came in last year when he went down. Nolan Rusi had a tough first couple of games, but he really came on in the playoffs and played much better. He's a former top 20 recruit, 5-star, but he's not really played like it. He went to Wisconsin, transferred from there to Penn State, was a backup last year, got his chance to play, didn't do so well at the beginning, but he eventually came on and did well in the playoffs. What's he going to be like this season? Is he going to win that right tackle job? Is he going to come in and play the way he was in the playoffs, get much better? Is he going to live up to the hype? Not the hype, his recruiting rankings. That's really my question for Penn State. Is Nolan Rusi going to live up to his recruiting rankings? It's one of the reasons why I had Oregon as the better offensive line. I felt like they had more proven guys. Nolan Rusi proved himself at the end of the season, but was that just because they were playing Boise State and they were playing at SMU in the playoffs, or was that because he finally got his legs under him and was playing much better? I'm interested to see this year for Nolan Rusi.
Yeah, that's really good. That's a really good question. I like it.
Thank you.
Northwestern,
Zach.
Northwestern.
Wildcats.
It's, can these receivers take advantage of Preston Stone's big arm? Like that's his best throw, is to go deep, to throw go balls. But does he have the receivers to take advantage of that? They're excited about Griffin Wild. I think they're excited about some of their young receivers, Covey and Elligan, Alex Lyons at tight end. I think they're excited about those guys, but can they take advantage of some of Preston Stone's strengths?
Can they protect him too? Right? If you're going to throw the deep ball, you got to have a good amount of protection. So thankfully they've got a really good D line they're going up against in practice. So
yeah, I'd say I do think I'm encouraged by their offensive line. I think
much bigger.
Yeah, and like Caleb Tiernan, like I feel like is in the mold of some of the other, like some other left tackles that they've had who are somehow like prototypical first round left tackles. And you're like, how did they end up at Northwestern? Oh, because they somehow developed these monsters. Like every 3 to 4 years, another one comes through and you're like, oh my goodness. But they have a few guys that they've really developed. Mostly seniors and juniors on that line. I think Arataki might be the only freshman that is projected to start on that line. So it should be interesting.
Is Tiernan going to be the left tackle?
According to Phil Steele.
Okay.
But Phil Steele's not always right. So
I saw somewhere the other day, somebody said Xavier Gray was going to be the left tackle. I felt like that was going to be a mistake to put him there, but all right. Maybe the thing I read the other day was just correct.
He has Gray.
Phil Steele.
Steele has Gray at right tackle. But I mean, to your point about size,
maybe the website I read just had it flipped.
Yeah. To your point about size, Xavier Gray, 6'8", 340 pounds. Caleb Tiernan, 6'7", 329. Those are some dudes.
Those are some towers on the outside. Very cool.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't mean that they're good, but Tiernan's good. Tiernan's really good. Gray is, I think, there's some questions. Like he was at Akron a year ago. How good is he really? Can he bump up to this level?
Yeah, he's got the size at the very least. He's probably a little stiff, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Hey, Joshua Justice, never seen you before in the chat. Joshua, thanks for being here. Want to highlight your comment. He said, most of the fans hated the air raid experiment. They're still going to go try some, but getting back to more of the basics with Grimes at offensive coordinator. Yeah, I that's what I saw primarily from the Wisconsin fans as well. I think there were some people that were very excited at the beginning of the prospect of maybe turning the offense into a little bit more modern, I guess you could say. But once it was tried, it did not look great. And then also part of that was the quarterback, right? I mean, I don't want to keep bashing on Braden Locke here, but he just was not the guy to do that. If you had Tyler Van Dyke, if Tanner Mordecai was there and not hurt, and he was healthy the entire time, maybe. But, that's just the hard part for it. So, but yeah, Joshua, thanks for being here. We're rooting for Grimes this season. Want to see some good stuff from him. All right, 2 teams left. 2 teams. I got Oregon, and then you got Nebraska. Oregon, Zach, you know who I'm asking about here. Who's going to emerge as the go-to guy for Oregon, right? Evan Stewart, he's out, most likely not playing the entire season. this year, who's going to step up and be that guy? Who's going to be the go-to guy? Not necessarily the guy that comes in and plays his position, but who's going to be the go-to guy for Dante Moore? Is it going to be Malik Benson? Is it going to be Justice Lowe? Is it going to be Gary? I mean, who is it going to be? I've kind of changed my mind a couple of times based on what we've seen from the media and who's been doing interviews and stuff, but I'm really interested to see who finally comes out. Is that guy? Who do they start talking about? Is Dante Moore's favorite target? I mean, Austin Novosad is still in that competition. I think it's going to be more. Everybody's acting like it's going to be more. But I just saw an article the other day about Austin Novosad doing an interview about the QB competition, and Dan Lanning hasn't named Dante Moore the guy yet. So probably going to be Dante Moore, but we'll see if Austin Novosad can really challenge for it and see if he can find a go-to guy.
Dan Lanning is stealing a page from the Ryan Day playbook of quarterback competitions. It's a competition between Gunnar Hoke and Justin Fields. Yeah, okay, Ryan. Okay. All right, Dan.
I think Austin Novosad's a little better than Gunnar Hoke.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Everyone else has kind of pointed out Dante Moore. So, like when the players are talking about one quarterback more predominantly, which I think has been the case also at Ohio State. Like, I listen to the players more than the coaches at that point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, finish us out here, Zach. What's your Nebraska question?
Nebraska, I think are the running backs able to produce at a Big Ten level? Like, how do they look at camp? And then how does the front seven look?
Nice. Yeah, I'm wondering about that front seven altogether. Sorry, Pitt Snipe Husker asked a funny question there. It got me.
Yeah. But yeah, I think running backs and then like the continuity, like there's a lot of new faces, not new faces, but a lot of new starters in that front seven. So how do they do?
I was going to say I'm excited about Dane Key too. Felt like we didn't really hear much about him in the spring. And, last year Nebraska brought in some good wide receiver transfers, but they didn't really show up the way I think some people thought they were going to. And, I think with Dana Holgerson this year, you have some more promise in that. But, yeah. So, all right. So we did get some questions. So if you're a member, I will put out a member post pretty much every time. Sometimes I forget. I apologize. But pretty much every time we have an episode that day, I'll put out a post asking if you have any topics or anything. And today we did get responses from Max and Pitt Snipe Husker. Max asked us, Zach, which gets released first, the Epstein files or Sharon Moore's text messages to Connor Stallions? I don't think we're ever going to see either of them.
Yeah, no, it's been destroyed. Evidence is destroyed.
Yeah, so I'm not going to get into the political stuff of the Epstein files, but I'm going to say it's safe to say probably not seeing either of those.
Yeah, neither of them are actually laughing matters, right? Like, unfortunately, but next question.
Yeah. And then Max says Indiana is on a 30-game losing streak to Ohio State and last won in 1988. When will this streak come to an end? Now they've had some close games with Ohio State. Gave Ohio State some good battles. 2020 was a really good battle. Last year, like I said, it was 14-7 at halftime. People act like that was just a blowout for the entire game, but it was a good game there in the first half, and then Ohio State started to pull ahead after the punt return. But overall, I mean, I know everybody's just going to act like until the end of time Indiana can never beat Ohio State, but it's going to happen at some point. Will it happen in your lifetime, Zach?
I mean, at the current trajectory that Indiana is building, like, I think it's very possible. Like, I think the reality, too, is that, like, as good as Ryan Day is, like, right now there's a dip in recruiting. And so, like, how likely is it, like, that on any given year? Like, I don't think it's super high, but, like, at some point, if Cignetti keeps building and he's there for, like, another 6 or 7 years, they're ripe for an upset, like, ripe to upset them at some point.
Yeah, I mean, this is what college football is becoming, right? More parity, more competition between teams, especially teams that find good coaches and build their teams in a cohesive way. And Indiana's going to be that. I think, honestly, it just depends on if Curt Cignetti gets it done or not. I'm not saying they won't hire a good coach after Curt Cignetti, but right now you have a sure thing with a really good coach in Curt Cignetti. You know, he's not going to take you to the playoffs every single year because I don't think there's any coach out. Well, I shouldn't say there's not any coach. It's very unlikely for you to get a coach that's going to take you to the playoffs at any program. I should say not any program. Ohio State, Georgia, teams like that are going to make the playoffs pretty much every year. But, you know, Curt Cignetti, he's a very good coach, and he's going to keep beating teams, and they might get Ohio State at some point, but we'll see. With how much do Ohio State fans hate Curt Cignetti, I'd almost pay to see Curt Cignetti beat him at some point. And that's me saying as an Ohio State fan wearing an Indiana shirt.
Yeah. I think it'll be interesting. So like a year ago, there was a good opportunity for Indiana because it was right before the Michigan game. And I think that might play a role in it too, is where does it fall in the schedule for both teams?
Yeah.
So like, that's why I think Illinois is going to beat Ohio State this year, is it falls into a really tricky part of the schedule for Ohio State. And like, if Ohio State's coming off a road game against Oregon or USC, and then they come back and they have to play Indiana, even if it's at home, like, I think that could be a tough ask if Indiana is particularly good that year.
Good point. All right. Hey, everybody. We appreciate you being here. Appreciate the show. Philip asked when the next call-in show is. We'll definitely have to do a call-in show in August, get ready for the season and everything. So we neglected to do that for a couple months, and we apologize for that. Busy times in June and July, but we'll get back to that. Zach and I will talk about a call-in show date, and we'll let you guys know.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Zach, anything else before we get out of here?
30 days. Let's go.
30 days. There we go. Excited for it. Thank you, everybody who listened today on the Big Ten Huddle. If you don't mind, please do like before you head out of here. Please do give us a 5-star rating on podcast before you get out of here. Really appreciate you listening, and really appreciate you showing up and clicking that listen button every single time. Have a good one, everybody. See you next time.